Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time to do a tag. So this is the Slow Reader tag, and it's an original tag created by Michaela May. I don't know if I'm saying her first name right. I'm just guessing. So, I think I'm a slow reader compared to a lot of booktubers. But, I mean, to be fair, that's partly not necessarily because I'm physically slow at reading, but that could potentially be because I also prioritize TV and watching videos on YouTube, particularly booktube videos. Although I'm kind of trying to change that. And also, if you compare me to the people in my personal life who read, like my, friends and family members who like reading, they probably think I'm a fast reader. But my friend Larissa, because she's reading audiobooks a lot, is, definitely catching up. Okay, so you guys know the drill. Series of questions. Go. Okay, so question number 1. What's your Goodreads goal for the year? And I went a little ambitious and decided to make it 150 books this year. I got really excited about doing that kind of goal. And like with Michaela, I'm going to tell you where I am in that goal, which is I'm up to book 35. I just finished the book today, and that was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Okay, so question number 2. How many books do you read a month on average? And, I had a hard time with this one because, but I ended up, the answer I gave, but I'm still not 100% on this one, is 7 to 11, 11 at the most, and 7 at the least. Because it kind of depends. If I'm reading a 500 plus page book, even a 400 plus page, even one that's in the 400s, that will take more time, unless, depending on where I am in the book. And, if I add short stories in there, then that will, add more books to my reading that month, even though, they're short stories, so they're not one book. They're a bunch of little books, little stories. Although I'm doing pretty good so far. I've already read 2 books in the first week. Finished 2 books, but to be fair, The Poppy War, I had started that one, back in 2019, and I just picked it up again this year. And it's not that I didn't like it. I love it, actually. But when it's a 500 plus page book, then, sometimes I'll start reading it, but then I'll put it down. And that one I got back into the last week of April because I wanted to get it finished and read for the Asian Readathon that Cindy from Reads with Cindy is hosting. So it depends, So question number 3 is, how many days does it typically take you to read a book? And again, that depends. It depends on the type of book I'm reading. If it's a novella or like a novel, if it's 500 plus pages, then it might take me a lot longer. And, certain genres I get through quicker than others. Like, fluffy rom-com books. If I read those, which I do read sometimes, they will take me a few days. Or, so yeah, it depends. That's the problem with these kinds of questions, is for me, it depends. Okay, so basically I don't really have an answer. I couldn't tell you. It could take me from a week to a whole year or longer. Okay, so question number 4. Are you always reading, or do you take breaks in between? And I'm one of those weird readers that will read multiple books at the same time. And I don't get characters mixed up or anything. Everyone always asks that question. But I think it was Larissa who said that, it's just like watching multiple TV shows at the same time, like, you're not going to get characters from shows mixed up, especially because you got the visual in front of you. So, with books is the same way. I don't have the visual. I mean, it's just like watching a show or a movie. I'm not going to get 2 characters from 2 different shows mixed up. And I'm not going to get two characters from different books mixed up either. So I will read multiple books at the same time, and when inevitably, if I'm closer to the end of a certain book, or I need to get a certain book, like if it's a library book, done before the others, then yeah, inevitably I will start to focus more on that one, and then I'll just jump into the next book. I don't ever feel like I'm never have actually, in all honesty, I've never experienced a slump before, and I've never. It's just easier for me. I have no problem just jumping to the next book, and maybe that's part of my problem. Maybe I should sit with the books more when I read them, especially a book like some of the intimidating books I'm going to show you later. So maybe I need to do that more often, take breaks in between books, but then I will during that break, I will watch TV or a movie or just, watch BookTube or something. Okay, so, next, question number 5. What book took you particularly long to read? I'm still reading this one, and I've had this for years. I mean, come on, you can see the broken spine, the pages are curled. This was one of the first classics I ever bought. And this was back when we were still living in Maryland. So, like, I mean, look at this. You can tell how old this book is, how long I've had it. And I'm finally close to the end. I mean, I still got a good chunk to go, but I'm on page 999. And that's after years and years. I don't even remember when I started this book. I mean, well, actually, no, I didn't start this back in Maryland. I started this when we first moved here. So it hasn't been that long, but I've had this for a long time. And I've been meaning to pick it up for a long time. Since before when we lived in Maryland. But yeah, so I'm finally, and it's like, I started reading this when we first moved here. So, and that was in 2016. I mean, maybe 2017 I started reading this. I don't remember. I would have to look on Goodreads. But yeah, I've had this for a long time, as you can tell, and I'm still reading it, like I said, and it's been like 4 or 5 years. So, and it's not that I didn't like it, it's just a big commitment, and there are times when it can be kind of boring, and times when you're like, okay, is this relevant? Why is this detail here, or who are these characters? Are they relevant to Dante's revenge? Or Dantes. Not Dante. He's not Dante. He's not Italian. So yeah, but the ones I've actually finished are I picked these two, and they've also taken me years to read. And as you can see, I already started rereading this one. I did technically start reading Gone with the Wind too, but then I took the bookmark out. But on Goodreads it does show that I'm still reading it. But yes, this is a classic, a Civil War classic. Although I know lately a lot of people have issues with it because of certain aspects of this plot, that people are not happy with. But I mean, this is such a classic. I still have a soft spot for it. I do want to read it again one day. I tried to read it with Terry once, but then I don't think she would, because I don't know if she could commit herself to something like this. I mean, maybe she could surprise me. I mean, I would love for her to do that. Terry, if you end up watching this video, maybe it'll be awesome if you surprise me and decide to read something like this. But yeah, this is another one of the classics I had back in Maryland. Is you can tell by the it's a mass market and everything. And I think I got this in South Carolina actually when I went to see my grandparents at the time. That's where I bought this. But it's such a classic. It's a very it's a Civil War novel, very romantic, and Scarlett O'Hara is quite the heroine, and it's like 1,000 pages. 1,024 pages long. And just like with this one, along with the other one, it's almost easier to just watch the movie. But it is a great book. I mean, I know there are issues people have with it, but I think it's an interesting read. And I want to reread it one day. And then the other one, and this I think is longer. I mean, now I don't know about my first edition of this book. I had an older edition of this one. It's by Stephen King. It was a mass market. I think this would be considered trade paperback because of it's a weird size book. I mean, I look it up and I keep thinking this might be trade paperback, but I'm not sure. I mean not trade, B paperback. But as you can see, I had a while back, like 2 years ago, I started rereading this. And I have wanted over the years to do a comparison to the book and the movie and see the differences, but it's just, I haven't, I mean, look how far I've gotten in my reread of it. But one day I will do it. But right now I just need to get better at reading books this size first. But yeah, this is longer than Gone with the Wind, or at least this edition is. This particular edition is 1,473 pages. So it surpasses both Gone with the Wind and Count of Monte Cristo in length. Okay, and then let's see. That was question number. That's question number 5. Question number 6 is, what do books intimidate you because you know you'll be spending a lot of time with them? Show a book you're intimidated by. And my answer is yes and no. Because I won't pick up books that length. My first thought is, ooh, so much to read. It has so much stuff in it, so much story and information, But then as soon as I start reading it, I'm like, oh crap, how long is this going to take me to read? Am I going to finish it? I'm never going to finish this. Even though I'm so excited because I know that so much is packed in that book. That I'm just and although there's one book in particular that it gets criticism for being a huge standalone, and that is I'm looking at it right now, Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. That is a huge book, and people say that she could have put that into like a trilogy or something. She didn't have to make that one standalone book. So yeah, standalone books that are a lot of pages long, they can pack so much. But sometimes it can be, if it's a fan, particularly with certain genres, I imagine it would be hard to smush it all together, even if you have a lot of pages. But yeah, it's the length can be pretty intimidating, but I just keep thinking I can meet this challenge, or this book is so dang long, and I want it, but I want to do it. I want to meet this challenge. Now, there are some that if it's a writing style that I'm not used to, then that can also throw me off and intimidate me. Which brings me to the books I'm going to show you guys. So the first one is actually epic poetry. Although the first time I filmed this, because this is not the first time I've filmed this video. I filmed it twice now because I messed up. But I was looking at it, and it's really, the translation shows that it's not that hard. It's just, it's still kind of long. A lot, But, I did enjoy, once I understood it, I did enjoy Sir Gawain the Green Knight and Beowulf. There were aspects of it that there were aspects of both those I didn't like. Characters is a whole nother story. We spent so much time with it. I want that book to die. I want to burn that book. But in all honesty, there were times, once I understood, I saw humor of all those different little story poems, but epic poem stories. But then I still hate it. I have a grudge against Canterbury Tales. But the one I'm talking about that is intimidating is the Portable Dante. Now, I already have a copy of Inferno from the Divine Comedy, which is the three the three epic poems, Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradiso. But this, the problem is this is such an old book, and I'm always intimidated by the language and the style, and but like I said, when I was looking at it earlier, when I first attempted to film this video, this tag, I was looking at it, and it's actually not that hard. Now, I do stumble on Italian words. Like, they still use Italian names and stuff, obviously. And it's the same thing with Russian and French. I struggle with those, which is why I want to download a translator. But like I said, it's intimidating because of the style and the fact that it's older literature. And I keep thinking, am I going to understand it? Am I going to be able to appreciate it? Am I going to understand the references? Which is probably why you should read introductions to classics, even if they can kind of spoil it. It's like, I feel like it depends on the classics. Certain classics, I think you can get away without reading the introduction first, but some of them I think you might need to consider it. It's the same with watching adaptations first. Like, even though, that's blasphemous to do. I think for certain, particularly for older books, like classics, you might want to consider checking out the adaptation first, so you know what's going on. So, like I said, it's more intimidating because of the style, and also the fact that it's, the Italian words that I might stumble on a little bit. And I've watched Jennifer Brooks discussing, she just did a Dante read-along, and she was talking about reading, like, Inferno is probably the easiest one for people to get into, while Purgatory and Paradiso are a little bit more challenging for people to get into, and even she didn't have any idea what was going on in those two. But, which it turns out I have 2 copies of Inferno, which I don't know if my other copy of Inferno, the Arcturus edition that they sell at BAM, I don't know who the translator of that one is. I don't know if it's this guy or someone else. But, although it's disappointing because I watched her vlog on reading Inferno, Jennifer Brooks' vlog, and she did say that these editions are this particular one, the Portable Dante, the notes are kind of they're a little disappointing. So one day I might buy the Oxford World Classics edition because the notes are better in that one. But I'm glad about this because there is actually, there's this big trade paperback that they just recently published called The Divine Comedy, which has a great, beautiful cover, that I almost bought for like a second. I thought, oh, I'm gonna buy that, but then I was like, I don't know, because I don't know if I'm ready for something like that, and it was very expensive. Well, this one was $23, but cheaper than that one that I almost bought. So like I said, it's intimidating because of the style. It's poetry, epic poetry. So, and the language is a little bit different. Obviously it's English, but it's, an older form of English, but not older as in, like Beowulf older, or Sir Gawain the Green Knight, but still, like, I think, let me see, does it say, which, I've always wondered why it's called The Divine Comedy. Maybe, but, let's see. Which, okay, that is kind of funny, because this was originally published. Well, I guess it's the translation is not translating to Old English, it's translating more modern English. So that's intimidating. Now, the rest of them are intimidating because of length alone, and also there are some of them that are really I keep thinking, am I going to be able to comprehend this? Am I going to really understand the themes and the message and stuff? And, because I read multiple books at the same time, maybe I should focus 100% on that book. But I'm worried that I won't be able to, because I'll be thinking about all my other beauties over there. So this one I heard from on the channel Leaf by Leaf, and just the way he talked about this book got my attention. And that's William Gaddis's The Recognitions. He also wrote Jar. That's what my parents' first dog was called, Jar. JR. My sister called him Jar. But, so this is about, in I think the 900 or 800 page mark. Sorry, I'm looking at the back because I want to give a better thought and description of what this is about. It's just looking at what we consider beautiful and artistic and its importance. And just how nowadays we just mostly copy already beautiful existing works. And it's just like I feel like I'm almost out of my depth with this when I look at it. I mean, I've tried it and so far it's not that I can't like read it. It's just so much what the book is saying is what is intimidating. And again, the length. And that's what I'm worried about. I want to be able to talk about this book with intelligence and not be like pausing and, saying, and, sounding, and stumbling on words like I'm doing right now. I want to be, and I don't want to have to like look at the back of the book. It's a big commitment again, and like I said, it's so much easier, if I'm reading this, then I'll want to read a fantasy at the same time, and I know I'm not going to get this book done, within a month or two, and maybe I could surprise myself, but, and like I said, I'm worried some of the stuff in here would go right over my head, but maybe not, maybe I'm just being stupid, and maybe it's not as bad as I think. And I've read some of it, already. I mean, I'm on page 131, so I'm past the 100 page mark. And so far, it's fine. It's just sometimes, I want to be able to talk about this book and sound like I know what I'm talking about, and not stumble and not, not sound like an airhead that's trying to sound smart, But it's a bit of a struggle. Like I said, it's intimidating. And then there's this one. I just bought this one, and first I really like the cover, like the typography and the color that they chose. Although you can tell it's an old book, it looks kind of like it was a used copy or that it got ruined somehow. But then is Ulysses by James Joyce, which I did have the Dubliners by James Joyce, but I ended up getting rid of it because at the time I didn't think I would ever read it, which I'm kind of regretting. But this is a classic, and people say it's a must-read on your top 100 books to read, and I have not. And at the time, for the longest time, I wasn't interested, but then for some reason, I just saw it. The bookstore was like, and it was the only one there, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this. And I got so excited, and it was a lot easier for me too, although I still, when I came home, I still was kind of wishing I could have bought, like something like Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. But I'm trying to stick with doing the one book rule each month, like one book each time I go during the month. But this is supposed to be, from what I know, I believe this is supposed to be a retelling of the Odyssey, which I still have not finished. And again, that's another one that's kind of intimidating, which I think it was translated, my copy of the Odyssey was translated into prose. Because I thought it was an epic poem, but it reads like a regular novel. It kind of reminds me of Gulliver's Travels in the way it reads. But that's all I know is that it's supposed to be a retelling of the Odyssey. And like I said, again, length, and I'm worried it would go over my head. And actually, this is a lot shorter than the Recognitions, not just physically, but it's also in the 700 page mark. Which is so funny because I keep thinking, when I hear about people talking about, I'm never going to read that, or I can't do that. That's a classic I will never read because of this and this. I'm like, and then I look at it and I'm like, wow, it's really not as intimidating as you think. But then you start reading, it's like, oh, okay, never mind, it is intimidating. um, but this is an unabridged version, which I like. But yeah, it's, I want to read these kinds of books, but it's a lot, and I would require a lot of concentration, and I'm always terrified it will go over my head, you know. And then I want to show you two more books that I consider intimidating. First, Don Quixote by Cervantes, Miguel Cervantes, a Spanish author, and this is one of these books that, again, another one that they recommend you read before you die, and I'm worried that I'm gonna be bored with this book, that I'm gonna read and get all excited, and then I'm gonna get too impatient to wait for the exciting stuff, and I'm gonna get bored with it. I just don't want to be disappointed by it, And when I was looking at it earlier, like I said, when I filmed this earlier, I noticed that it's really cool. It actually has some sketches in it, like drawings in it, which I thought was really cool. But in case you don't, this one is it's basically about the guy who thinks he's obsessed with like chivalry and knights and honor and all that stuff, and he starts to think he is one because he devotes himself to reading stories about that. And I just, like I said, I'm worried I'd be bored. But, I hear it's so good for the people who love it. And which, by the way, as I'm looking at these books, I'm thinking, oh, I want to pick it up right this second. But, like I said, my Goodreads goal is a 150 goal. And I know it's not a crime if I don't meet it. But I like the feeling I get when I do accomplish it and read that however many books I set for myself. And don't tell me there aren't a lot of people who think the same way. I know that there are people, but that think that way. Like I said, I'm just worried I might be bored and disappointed by this. And again, another big, huge commitment. So, and then the last one I want to show you is one that I originally bought from the library, but I got a little impatient with it, and also I was like, I did not want to I knew I would have to keep that book I would be keeping that book forever, so I try to avoid books that are over like 500 plus pages, although I don't know how many pages Red Leopard read, the, what is it? Sorry, Black Leopard Red Wolf. I don't know how many pages that is, but I got that one from the library recently. So this is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, and the reason why I decided to give this book another shot actually was because Eva Green, I think she's going to be in a show version or movie version, which they probably had to stop filming that, but I remember hearing about that. Seeing like a teaser for that, but like I said, they probably had to stop filming because with the nasty little pandemic. And it's winner of the Man Booker Prize, a New York Times Notable Book of the Year, and I think there's a fantasy element to it. But yeah, the first time I read it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be able to return this library at some point. And it's a very slow-moving story, I think, and, very character-driven. But, oh, what's this? There must have been stickers on here. I don't know that was in there. Which, yeah, I shouldn't be surprised because this did surprisingly come from the, Roast Office Bookshop, which I was so excited when I got that, when I saw it there. But yeah, so, and this is like in the, I think it's either 900 or 800 page mark. So again, it's slow moving and like it's a long book, so it's 830 pages. So, so these books are intimidating often because of length or the writing style. Okay. That was question number 6. Question number 7. Which book have you actually read in one day or super quickly? I don't know if I've read a book in a day unless you count short stories, but it does say book, it doesn't say short stories. So, I ended up saying my most recent, not my most recent as I just read it, but I read it back in March. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Now, I first read this in middle school, and so I have been wanting to reread for a long time, especially because I've been getting more into Steinbeck. Like I've started East of Eden. I still have never finished that one yet. I like it. It's just, again, slow moving and big commitment. And I did have, it was those, I do have a copy of Mice Men in like a omnibus anthology collection of his novellas. But you know, it's kind of hard to lug around. I wanted to get a smaller copy, so in a paperback. So I got this one. It was my chance to have another one of these at special centennial editions as well, because I really like these. And I feel guilty if I already had a perfectly nice copy of East of Eden and then to buy another copy that's in this edition. I feel like I feel a little guilty and feel like, do I really need to have two copies? I mean, if you're someone who does that, you know, I know there are a lot of people who will buy multiple copies of their favorite books, but I just, you know, that's great, you know, spend your money how you want to, but I just feel guilty spending money on a copy of a book that I already have a copy, you know. So I ended up getting this version of it, and so far this is the only one of his novellas that I actually like, because, well, I can't really make that judgment because I've only read one other one of his novellas, which is the Cannery Row, and I just kind of bored with that one. But so this one only took me a few days. It's heartbreaking. It's, you know, it's a quick story, but it, you know, punches you in the gut by the end. You know, so that only took me a few days to read. Okay, so question number 8. What book genre takes you the longest to read? And sometimes that can be horror or fantasy, even though I love both those genres. You know, most of you probably would assume that those wouldn't take me that long if they're my favorite genres. But sometimes they do. So, but I didn't want to say, so, but I ended up saying literary fiction, because what is considered literary will spend more time on characters and really diving deep. They're not very fast paced, usually they're very slow moving, and they really help you get to know the characters and focus on all these details and stuff like that. They take their time. So I said those ones can take me a long time to read. And, okay, my dog just came up here. That's why I left my door open so I wouldn't be disturbed while I'm filming this for the third time. So yeah, I said literary, because like I said, they're usually pretty slow moving plots. Not always. I mean, I feel like Never Let Me Go was more literary, but I got through that, you know, pretty quickly. But it was not as long of a book. It was only a handful of chapters, so it's like, it kind of depends. I feel like there's a lot of actors in, you know, books that, you know, I can't just say this genre, even though I did say. But yeah, if I have to give an answer to I'll say literary fiction. Okay, so a book you regret reading because you spent so much time with it for so little payoff. And I said the best answer I could come up with this was Red Rain by R.L. Stine. But it wasn't just the payoff itself, it's I guess the whole book would be the payoff. I feel bad because, you know, I was a Goosebumps fan, and it was I think that was his first adult book. I mean, the only thing he did was add some more adult themes and stuff, and add some vulgar language that, you know, a little kid cannot be exposed to. And, it's just a very cheesy plot, and just the characters' the two evil little boys were kind of twin boys that were kind of annoying, and you just want to punch them. And It was creepy though. Some of the things were creepy when they were doing the hypnosis thing that they did. I mean, it gave me the EBGBs. Like they had to hypnotize the whole freaking town. So it was a little creepy, but it was still like, very eye rolling inducing and just really like very cheesy, and it felt like a TV movie, and I like couldn't stand it. And I feel bad because this was also something that someone bought the book for me, because I was like, oh, R.L. Stine, his first adult book. And plot on the back did sound exciting, but then I ended up not liking it and it went in the donation pile. Which that's why I think, it's tricky unless I tell people exactly the books I want, Although I was with my friend when she got it for me. At the time, but even I make mistakes. And then I would say Canterbury Tales, but I don't entirely regret. The payoff wasn't that bad. It was just I wish it hadn't taken over the rest of the class. I wanted to get to Hamlet. We just spent a week on Hamlet, and then we didn't even get to Gulliver's Travels, which I was interested to. Although I ended up reading Gulliver's Travels. I got that one from the library. And I want that book to burn. I want it to die. I hate that book. Okay, so that was number 9. Okay, so the last question, finally into the last question. The other 2 times I never got to the last question. Recommend fellow slow readers. Maybe it's fast paced, Taylor's well to slow. Reading but book you love so much it deserves a lot of time, etc. And I had trouble answering because I don't like recommending books, because I feel like, especially if you're recommending books to, if you're not being specific. So I don't like these kinds of questions. But I did come up with the answer. The best answer I could come up with was, I went ahead and said Fifth of Swords, Volume 1 of the Rhyrea Revelations. This is very fast-paced and fun. And even then, unless you're a fantasy fan, maybe these slow reads might not be fantasy fans, but this is fast-paced. It's fun. I love both characters. It's not too dense. It's not Game of Thrones. But it has some, it doesn't have a whole bunch of characters you're focusing on. It's very fast-paced. Both these characters, Royce and Hadrian, are so fun, and there's all the great elements of fantasy, but I feel like it reads like a movie. Like, you could see this on screen, and it is set up where you have two books, 2 novellas, and 1 big bind up, because it started out, I think, originally as an ebook, and then it did so well that he was able to publish it. And so you have 3 volumes, and I'm going to read the 2nd volume soon. Probably, maybe I'll start it in June, or maybe if I get through my other 2 Asian themed books, then I might get to that one. Although I also need to read Pickle Papers too. But yeah, this is just fun, And although, like I said, if you're not a fantasy reader, maybe you wouldn't like it as much. But I just had such a fun time with this, and it's very fast paced, and yes, it's kind of still kind of a chunky book, but it's just, like I said, I feel like it's really fast paced and fun, and I don't know what else to say, because I don't like these kinds of questions, because I never know how to answer them. So that's the best answer I could come up with. So that is the slow reader tag. It's pretty similar, although my answers are similar to the Intimidating Books tag. So whether you're a slow reader or not, and if you want to do this tag, feel free to do it. Consider yourself tagged. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification if you want to be notified when I post new videos. if you want to answer some of these questions in the comments section below, I'd love to hear your answers for some of them. And I hope you're continuing to wear your mask and washing your hands, and or at least using hand sanitizer and staying 6 feet apart from people, because again, we are not out of the woods yet. We're getting there, but still, please, for the sake of everyone, continue to be careful. And I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.